Hello everyone, wishing you all good health and peace in life. Today, we walk alongside Uncle D on a journey not just of bricks and wood, but of love, patience, and quiet dreams. Uncle D's journey to start building a warm home for Huyen and Maya is more than the story of a house, it's the story of healing hearts and weaving together a new family from pieces once broken. The beginning of a new family, new happiness, hope for a bright tomorrow. With each nail driven and each wall raised, D isn't just building shelter, he's building trust, laughter, and a safe place where Huyen and little Maya can finally rest without fear. Here, under the open sky, their new chapter begins. The morning sun spread a gentle warmth over the dusty road as D walked beside Huyen, their hands lightly brushing, while little Maya skipped ahead with her small bag swinging at her side. It had been years since D last set foot here, and now he was returning not to claim the past, but to build a new beginning. The air was thick with the smell of earth and dry leaves. Ahead, the outline of Huyen's old house came into view, a skeleton of bamboo eaten away by termites. D paused, his heart heavy. That fragile structure could no longer shelter them from the rains or the cold nights. But in his mind, he already saw the walls rising again, stronger this time, warmer, ready to hold laughter and peace. Work had been scarce for D lately, and his savings were thinning fast. Yet, when he looked at Huyen's quiet strength and Maya's bright eyes, his worries softened. He handed Huyen the bundle of money he had kept hidden in his pocket for weeks. "It's not much," he admitted, "but I'll find more. I'll work every hour I can. We will build this home together." Huyen smiled, though her eyes glistened. She suggested selling the ring D had once given her in the south, but he shook his head firmly. "That ring is my promise to you. We will not trade it for bricks or bamboo. We will find another way." By midday, they reached the plot of land. Bibi, their little dog, dashed about the yard, barking at shadows. D measured the ground with careful steps, deciding on 20 poles of pre-soaked bamboo, strong, clean, and resistant to termites. Later, he returned with the heavy load, the scent of river waters still clinging to the poles. The afternoon passed in the rhythm of work, digging post holes, clearing weeds, and marking the kitchen's position to catch the cool wind. Maya helped in her own way, fetching water for D, laughing with Bibi, and pretending to teach the dog the alphabet. As the sun slipped behind the trees, Huyen called them in for dinner. The table was simple: fried eggs, rice, and fresh gourd from the garden, but the air was rich with the comfort of shared effort. They spoke of adding a loft to protect against floods, of finishing the house quickly so they could return to earning a living, and of the day Maya would have a safe, dry room of her own. That night, under the dim light of a single bulb, D sat outside for a moment, listening to the crickets. The house was not yet built. There were still days of hard labor ahead, and money would be tight. But inside, Huyen was humming softly as she washed the dishes, and Maya's laughter still echoed in his ears. And in that quiet moment, D realized the truth: home was not only made of walls and a roof. It was made of the people you choose to stand beside, the ones you work for, the ones you love enough to begin again. The next morning began before sunrise. The air was still cool, and a faint mist lingered over the fields. D was already outside, arranging the bamboo poles in neat piles. His hands were rough from years of labor, but there was a quiet determination in his movements. Huyen stepped out, wrapping a scarf around her shoulders. She carried a small kettle of tea and set it down beside him. "You've been up since before dawn," she said softly. D smiled, The sooner we start, the sooner you and Maya will have a proper home. Maya came running, hair still messy from sleep, clutching a piece of bread. Uncle D, can I help today? You can help by making sure Baby doesn't run off with my tools, Dee teased. By mid-morning, the sound of tools echoed through the yard. A friend of Dee's arrived, a quiet man with kind eyes ready to help. Together, they lifted the heavy bamboo poles into the post holes. Sweat ran down their faces, but no one complained. Huyen kept busy in the kitchen, preparing a pot of soup to share for lunch. Every so often, she would glance outside, her heart swelling at the sight of Dee working so hard, not just for a house, but for their life together. By afternoon, the posts stood tall, their shadows stretching long in the sun. Dee wiped his brow and looked at Huyen. This is the skeleton of our new home, he said. Tomorrow, we'll start on the walls. That night, as they ate together, Maya talked excitedly about how she wanted to decorate her corner of the house with flowers by the window and a shelf for her books. Dee listened with a smile, silently promising himself that no matter how hard it got, he would make it happen. When the stars came out, the three of them stood in the yard, looking at the posts against the night sky. It didn't look like much yet, but in Dee's eyes, it was already a home, one built on patience, trust, and a love that had been tested and had endured. Tomorrow would bring more work, more challenges, but also more steps toward a future worth building. The following days were filled with the steady rhythm of work. Each morning, Dee would wake before the sun, boil water for tea, and step outside to greet the stillness of the land. The air smelled of wet soil and bamboo, a scent that would forever remind him of this chapter of their lives. On the third day, the frame of the house was nearly complete. Dee and his friend worked side by side, their movements synchronized from years of shared labor. Huyen prepared baskets of palm leaves for the roof, her hands moving quickly yet gently, weaving them into thick, sturdy sheets. Maya spent her time darting between them, helping in little ways, fetching nails, holding ropes, handing over cups of water. Sometimes she would sit on the ground beside Baby, drawing pictures of what she imagined the finished house would look like. By the end of the week, the bamboo walls stood firmly, their golden brown color glowing in the afternoon sun. Inside, Dee measured the space for a loft. This will be our safe place when the floods come, he told Maya, lifting her up so she could see the view from above. It feels like a treehouse, she laughed, clapping her hands. The next morning, Huyen lit incense at the small altar, whispering prayers for peace and protection over their new home. Dee worked on the final touches, securing the roof, raising the foundation, and smoothing the bamboo floor so Maya could walk barefoot without worry. When the last pole was set and the last knot tied, they stood together at the doorway. The house was modest, but every beam carried the weight of shared effort. Every corner held the quiet strength of love. That night, they sat on the new bamboo floor, eating a simple meal. The sound of crickets filled the warm air, and moonlight spilled through the window. Maya curled up beside Dee, her eyelids heavy. "Uncle D," she murmured, "thank you for building our home." Dee's throat tightened. He looked at Huyen, who gave him a gentle smile. And in that moment he knew this was not just a house. It was the start of a life they had chosen together. A place where laughter could grow, where hardship would be faced hand in hand, and where tomorrow's hope would always find a place to rest. The first morning in the new house felt different. Sunlight poured gently through the gaps between the bamboo slats, painting golden stripes across the floor. The air was fresh and cool. carrying the scent of damp earth after a light night rain. Huyen was the first to wake. She quietly boiled water for tea, the steam curling upward like a small blessing. She looked around the room, still half bare but already filled with life. Maya's small shoes neatly lined near the doorway, Bibi curled up on a mat, and the faint hum of a new beginning in every corner. Soon, Dee stepped out from the loft, stretching his shoulders. "It feels good to wake up here," he said, taking the cup of tea from Huyen's hands. "Better than I imagined." Maya's voice broke the morning stillness. "Mom, Uncle D, someone's here." Through the open doorway came the sight of neighbors carrying baskets of vegetables, rice, and even a freshly caught fish. Smiles and greetings filled the yard as people stepped inside to see the new home. They all sat together on the floor, sharing tea and talking about the work it had taken to build the house. Dee's friend, who had helped from the start, clapped him on the shoulder. "It's small, but it's strong. You've built more than walls here, Dee. You've built a family." Huyen served the fish soup she had cooked that morning, adding fresh herbs from the garden. Laughter drifted out into the yard, mixing with the sound of Bibi barking playfully at the children who had come along. By afternoon, the guests had gone, leaving behind not only gifts of food but also words of encouragement. Dee and Huyen stood at the doorway, watching Maya chase Bibi around the gourd trellis. "This place," Dee said softly, "it's just the start. We'll make it better day by day." Huyen looked at him, her eyes calm and certain. "We already have the most important thing, a home filled with love. The rest will follow." That evening, as the sky turned to shades of amber and rose, they lit a small oil lamp. Inside their modest bamboo house, the warm glow touched every surface, wrapping them in quiet peace. For the first time in a long while, tomorrow didn't feel uncertain. It felt bright, full of promise. The true foundation of a home. A house can be built with wood, brick, or bamboo. But a home is built with something far greater: love, trust, and shared hope. Dee, Huyen, and Maya's journey reminds us that even when life strips away what we thought was secure, we can still begin again. They didn't have much: no expensive furniture, no polished floors, no perfect walls. But they had the courage to face hardship together, the kindness of neighbors who offered help, and the determination to turn a humble shelter into a place of belonging. In a world where many measure success by the size of their house or the value of their possessions, this little family teaches a different truth. The most precious things in life are often invisible. You cannot buy the sound of a child's laughter echoing in the yard, the comfort of sharing a simple meal with someone you trust, or the peace of lying down at night knowing you are loved. The lesson is simple yet powerful. Life will test you, and sometimes you will lose almost everything. But if you hold on to kindness, unity, and hope, you can rebuild not only a roof over your head, but also the life you dream of. In the end, a home is not the place where you live. It's the place where love lives.